Growing up in the late 90s and into the 2000s was a great time to love skateboarding. Tony Hawk and the games with his name on them cemented the sport into pop culture in a truly fantastic way. More people than ever were being exposed to skateboarding in ways nobody had thought of before. And it is hard to describe just how widespread the Tony Hawk games were in their heyday. The mix of skateboarding, the hottest topic in the world at the time, a great soundtrack, and a bunch of notable characters certainly helped the franchise skyrocket into the mainstream. Hawk wasn't the only one producing skateboarding games. Despite being the most popular game on the market, others did attempt to capture the magic of skateboarding in video game form. Some good, some abysmal, but all trying to cash in on the hottest sport in the world. One skateboarding game is different. It stands out amongst the rest. And that game was Thrasher, Skate and Destroy. Many people, especially these days, know of Rockstar Games, the studio that has brought many legendary titles to the masses. Many of their games will go down in history as true classics of their time. The Grand Theft Auto series, Max Payne, and Red Dead Redemption are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Rockstar. Many great games lie underneath, most of the time being fringe titles and one-offs. Manhunt, The Warriors, State of Emergency, all great, and some would even say underrated titles. Rockstar has the reputation to think outside the box a bit when it comes to their more obscure titles, flexing their creativity with things like Rockstar Table Tennis and Thrasher Skate and Destroy. The latter we will be obviously looking at in this video. Looking back, people may think that making a skateboarding game at the peak of the Tony Hawk craze would be a bold move, and they would be right, and this wasn't the case either, as Thrasher Presents Skate and Destroy would hit shelves in the US on September 26, 1999, a mere 3 days before the world would be introduced to the Tony Hawk franchise, as the first game in the series would be released on September 29, 1999. The close release dates would see reviewers directly comparing the two games, with reports praising Thrasher as being technically superior to Tony Hawk. The simulation approach to skateboarding was very well received, and a great contrast to the equally celebrated but more arcade-style Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Thrasher was ignored a bit, perhaps due to the success of the Tony Hawk launch, though others would cite the hard-to-learn controls and less advanced graphics. These things didn't hold back the good reviews, but it more than certainly added to the reasons not as many people were picking up the game. Those who took the time to learn the ins and outs were presented with one of the best and most revolutionary skateboarding games of our time. Thrasher would have the player pick one of 6 fictional characters and take them through 12 levels, gaining sponsors, competing in contests, and running from the law in some rare second-person gameplay that was unheard of at the time, with the camera showing the point of view of the police officer as you continue to control the skater while trying to exit the level before getting tased or bitten by the police dog, both of which results in arrest. Up to 2 players could check out the various game modes available for multiplayer, things like Sessions, a 2-minute point run, Nickel Bag, a single trick contest, or even Horse, where one player sets a trick and the other must copy it exactly. In hindsight, a lot of people compare Thrasher to the newer skate games that also favored simulation over arcade-style gameplay. We would even see more similarities with Sick Fix, a game mode that pit players against each other to see who could cause the most damage to themselves, something we would see in Skate with the Hall of Meat challenges. This is why Thrasher is so revolutionary. Skate would become a huge success, using the thumbsticks of new controllers to simulate skateboarding on a whole new level, something that Thrasher was unable to implement due to DualShock and analog controllers having not been released yet. Developed by the then Z-Access Studios, what was offered in Thrasher was such an enjoyable experience for any fan of skateboarding. The simulation-based gameplay, as mentioned before, was a welcome take on the genre. Landing tricks and free skating are delightful and feel like they take skill rather than the point-focused arcade style found in the Tony Hawk games. Don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, with Tony Hawk's Underground being one of my favorite games of all time. Thug did something that Thrasher had introduced in their game, adding a vast story mode that saw you take the role of an amateur wannabe and embark on a quest to superstardom in the skateboarding industry, gathering sponsors and winning contests along the way. Granted, Thrasher was not nearly as fleshed out as Thug, but one can imagine it would be at this point in its lifespan had it continued alongside the Tony Hawk series. Going back to the games influenced by Thrasher, it is impossible to miss the Skate series. As I said before, Skate and its sequels are influenced heavily by the likes of Thrasher, multiplayer game modes being most telling, as the Hall of Meat is a fleshed out version of Sick Fix, where players bail off their board on purpose to see who can cause the most damage to themselves. Things like Skate which is a popular game that is played in the skateboarding community in which two skaters take turns doing tricks, with one setting the trick and the other copying that trick until someone fails, thus earning them a letter in the word skate. In Thrasher, the basketball terminology is used with the game being called horse. The same principle applies, but the name is in reference to a basketball game where one person sets the shot and the other one tries to copy it. And of course, if they miss, they get the letter. We are using skateboards, not basketball, which is why the skateboarding community renamed their variation to skate. The controls and feel of the Skate series are very reminiscent of Thrasher as well, with many people looking at Skate as more challenging to control and master than the Tony Hawk games. When Thrasher was released, DualShock and analog controllers were not commonplace and wouldn't really take off until the PlayStation 2. Thrasher would require you to hold down different buttons to set up tricks, the square button acting as an ollie, triangle for kickflips, and circle for grabs and spins. Many people were not wrong to be confused or challenged by these controls, as admittedly they felt unnatural, with tweaks and variations and tricks coming from holding different buttons as modifiers. Compared to the pick up and play aspect of Tony Hawk, it was easy to see who had the more accessible controls. To me, it gave me a better sense of pride, and I felt much more skillful landing tricks in Thrasher, perhaps because of the controls. It's much easier to string combos together and do outrageous tricks in Tony Hawk, but Thrasher made you feel again like you were simulating skateboarding. Approaching a rail and hitting a grind on it felt more like you were skilled in the game world. You were encouraged to plan out your tricks more, and yes, there is a specific point value that you need to hit in a 2-minute run to advance to the next level, and at the end of which the police will chase you out of the spot and you need to skate to an exit grid to advance. Combos and using different tricks helps out when accumulating points, but it doesn't feel like an arcade take on skateboarding to accomplish these goals. Thrasher offers excellent progression by having the player unlock tricks as they progress through the game. You won't be able to do something like a 360 flip the second you start. The levels are another significant part of this game, giving the player a ton of terrain to test their skateboarding skills. Each group of levels is a part of a city, with the last level being a competition, except for the first level, where we start off in Hometown, an unnamed generic stair set with a planter and a warehouse across the street. The level really sets the vibe of the game and introduces you to the soundtrack amazingly. Next up is New York, starting with the subway. As the name suggests, this level consists of a subway station. The rails and benches make for some great skating, and because game logic, the walls have become quarter pipes, and they're littered throughout the area. Next up, we venture to the real-life Lower Manhattan Washington Square Park. At least that is what it's based off of, and the park offers some fun urban skating with boxes and rails galore. I always had a lot of fun doing gaps over the grass plots here. And I'm not too sure how closely it resembles Washington Square Park circa 1999, but Thrasher does not shy away from real-life skate spots, and this is just one of many through our adventure. The final stage of New York has us hitting the legendary Brooklyn Banks, R.I.P. It's for a contest. There are various skate park accessories here for the competition, as well as the banks themselves. The skatable area has been closed permanently by the time of this recording, and it is indeed an epic skate spot where many pros made a name for themselves. Los Angeles is the target of the next group of stages, starting with Venice. Venice Beach is no stranger to skateboarding, and in the 90s it was a hotbed for the sport, appearing in numerous videos and games. The spot is relatively simple here, with the exception being a hobo that will chase you from here rather than the police. It offers some excellent street skating and some good vert opportunities. From one famous spot to the next, we hit the LA River, and this concrete playhouse is excellent for pulling big tricks at fast speeds, and it's perfect for slamming hard off your board too. The water hazard adds a bit of a challenge to the area as well, and the banks make for some really nice transitions and lines to create. This spot is so ridiculously famous, it's featured in many games of many genres, even multiple Rockstar games. It is great to shred it up on the skateboard here. Finally, we come to the contest in Los Angeles at the courthouse. Much like every other competition we face in game, the level has been fitted with a ton of fun boxes, rails, and pipes to really get the points flowing. The courthouse is a real-life skate spot that has been frequented by pros. The look of it may be different now, but the memories remain. Thrasher did a great job of showcasing excellent real-world skating hotspots of the time, and this contest space is no different. After crushing the competition, you find yourself in San Francisco. The first stop is the China Banks. Made from bricks, the banks in San Fran's Chinatown are no stranger to skaters. Many pros and up-and-comers alike have slammed down at this iconic spot. The banks offer an excellent street skating session, with the elevated terrain and grass breaks making for sick gaps. Many walls, like in other areas, have been turned into skatable slopes for brevity, and one of the more versatile stages in the game, and is perfect fit for Thrasher. Big air and great transitions. We hit the hills of San Francisco next. Out of all the levels in Thrasher, I would have to say that this one is my least favorite. Some people may like the race downhill approach to a level. It offers a change of pace for sure. I struggle to find the right spots to skate here, as if you want to head back to a place you liked before, you have to slug it uphill. It does give you a comprehensive simulation of skating the hills of San Francisco, with grindable curbs and various ramps throughout the area. I just personally find the other stages to be much more enjoyable as a whole. What would a trip to San Fran be without a stop at the famous Embarcadero? That is where the final stage and competition for San Francisco take place. Heralded as one of the most legendary skate spots of all time, the Embarco, or EMB, is one of the most iconic spots in skateboarding history. Home of the Gonscat, awesome stair sets, and epic ledges, it's easy to see why. Thrasher's rendition of the area is a fun place to skate, filled with dicey gaps and spots that will allow your creativity to go wild. One of my favorite levels in the game. Saying goodbye to the EMB, we set sail for what the game calls International. I assume it's that way because it divides the levels between countries. And the first stop is the South Banks in the UK, one of the most iconic skate spots in London. The area offers an enjoyable, frustrating experience, though there isn't enough variety here to find your groove, with bowls and various street obstacles to turn into your own private skate park. At this point in the game, the score is pretty high to advance, which can make this area frustrating. Once we are done warming up here, it's time to hit the big stage. Das Coliseum hosts the final contest of the game, and winning this will make your mark and cement you with the pros. The layout is similar to something that the X Games would host, offering many types of objects to assure every kind of skater can find their mojo here. Bowls, half pipes, fun boxes, and rails. Anything you can think of, you'll find it here. And after winning the competition, you've made it. You are now a pro skater. The game rewards you with a harder difficulty and a congratulations message. You have done it. Of course, after unlocking a level, you're free to skate it as much as you want. The police won't show up until you start the timed run, and then it reaches 0, so players can free skate as much as they like through each level, which made for a lot of fun after becoming a pro. Having all the tricks unlocked and being able to try new things at the spots were a blast. The simulation approach to the sport and the awkward controls made it feel very gratifying to complete the journey and become a pro skater. Thrasher Presents Skate and Destroy was truly ahead of its time. With the popularity of the Skate series, it is clear that there is a market for simulation skateboarding tiles. Still, due to the bad timing with the Tony Hawk series and the steep learning curve, Thrasher was widely ignored on release. The Skate series, despite being well loved and having a cult following, shows no sign of revival, as Skate 3, the last entry in the series, was released in 2010, 10 years prior to this video being made. That doesn't mean that the simulation skateboarding genre is dead. For at the time of this video, Sessions, a spiritual successor to the Skate series, is in development, with very favorable reviews coming from its time on Steam Early Access. So perhaps there is still hope for those of us who enjoy a realistic skateboarding experience. Sessions looks to be a great entry in the genre. So many things made Thrasher a good game. Solid gameplay mixed with ragdoll physics, one of the first games ever to use the ragdoll actually. Exceptional levels to explore your trick library in. One of the most enjoyable soundtracks to hit a video game. And all the songs are licensed, so I can't play them here, but that won't stop me from linking a playlist where you can hear all the fantastic soundtrack for yourself. The 80s hip-hop mixed with the skateboarding is a great combination. Thrasher introduced me to a lot of these songs and artists, which is something that I consider to be a truly incredible gift. If you're a fan of skateboarding or games about skateboarding, Thrasher is a must play. Anyone with an old PlayStation console lying around could do themselves a huge favor by picking this up. And I've seen a lot of people play it on emulator as well, so it must not be too complicated to get up and running. A truly classic game by Rockstar that deserves far more attention and praise. What a masterpiece. Thank you for checking out my video about Thrasher, and if you enjoyed the video, you can help out the channel a lot by leaving a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can always subscribe to the channel for more. I want to thank my patrons and YouTube channel members for their continued support. I'm incredibly grateful to be able to do this, and your support makes that possible. I want to give a special thanks to my biggest supporters, Kim Jong-un, Popo Hum, Your Typical Redneck, Jay the Jungle, and Fireflare. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And if you want to see your name in these credits and get a shout out, consider checking out the Patreon and YouTube channel memberships below. That helps the channel more directly. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch